Anyway.
Hey guys. Yeah, let's try that one. So anyways, or
So, okay, good. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So, we're starting something new here. We usually end up, whenever we get together, BSing for quite a while anyways, and not accomplishing a lot of work. So we thought it'd be a good idea to start filming that.
Yeah, might as well.
Because a lot of our discussions that we have, we get done just, BSing. Usually it's a beer break. And, we should probably start filming that, because I know a lot of people are enjoying the whole podcast thing and just listening to other conversations. And then we thought it'd be fun to kind of bring up different topics. It'd be a good opportunity to do small updates on all my project vehicles and where things are at, and then if Taylor's bought anything new, kind of that route as well.
Yeah.
And then kind of try to focus in on a topic per kind of episode, if you will.
Right.
So, what did we decide on for this one?
Today we're going to talk about ruined trucks, which is, I think it's a big topic these days, especially, there's like purists for trucks, and then there's these guys that are chopping them down and dropping them to the ground, putting airbags on them, and just basically ruining them in the pure size. So yeah, we just want to talk about, are they actually ruined? Which we obviously don't think so.
No, yeah, we obviously don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, and so that brings up a good point. The whole there's so many purists out there, or people are just against modifying trucks for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Working at Napa, I run into all kinds of farmers, especially, that are just entirely against it. But they have their just old work trucks, and they continue to buy new work trucks, and they buy them for a utility side, and they honestly just don't understand the hot rod side of it.
Right.
And there's a few people tell me my swap line that I got, oh, you've ruined that truck. And I said, well, what have I done that truck can't do now?
Yeah, exactly.
So, project updates on this. Both of us actually have some pretty exciting things going on.
Yeah.
Taylor, I guess we can start with him, has purchased another vehicle and have been updating some vehicles. And what exactly have you been doing?
So, the 78 GMC, you guys saw me pick that up, the short bed. So it's kind of like doing a little bit of that weird backwards rake. We got that thing leveled out. The suspension was kind of funky, so we just fixed that. So now it actually rides correctly. You saw the slosh tubs, we installed that. So now there's no bottoming out on the inner fender wells. So I can actually drive the truck now.
So you have a really cool, awesome, almost perfect truck.
Yep.
And so you bought another one.
Yep, and I just flew out to Houston a couple weeks ago, and I found one almost my dream truck. This is a 69 GMC short bed, green, like greenish, tealish, patina. I'm sure everyone's seen that kind of truck. My dream truck's probably a 68 Chevy, but they're really hard to find in a short bed, and I want the big window. Don't really like the little, small window. I had that for a while.
Looking for a 68 year specific, basically.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna wait around for that. But this one's gonna be pretty gnarly. We're doing air ride, like 20-inch American racing wheels. It's a 454 big block, 4-speed. It's gonna be a gnarly truck.
So you're doing it right.
Yeah, I think so. And that's about it. Well, also that 72 you guys saw us clean up the patina on. That thing sold.
Oh yeah, that's right. You sold that one off already.
The Porsche, I think we mentioned one time, that's gone. My M3, both M3s are gone now. So I'm looking, and my other E30 too, the gray one that I was driving. That one's gone too.
Oh, you finally got rid of that one?
Yep.
Okay.
So,
good.
My buddy Mike bought that. So yeah, we're moving cars, which is good. I think that's about it.
Then pretty much complete opposite is me.
Mm-hmm.
So coming from the guy who drives something really cool, I like this. This is fun. Mm-hmm. Moves on to another project.
Just mark it off the list.
Mark it off the list. I obviously like to keep my stuff, and I'm working on everything. 66 is done. I don't think we have a video up of that yet. Front end.
Yeah,
disc brake conversion.
That was what, like a month and a half, 2 months
that turned into a whole nother project in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was just a disc brake conversion, and as soon as I got it apart, I knew I had one lower ball joint that was bad, so I bought those. And as soon as I got it apart, everything was just junk on the front of that car, which explains why it handled so terribly, because you'd hit the brakes and it didn't just pull in one direction. The front end would just move.
Like every bushing was like destroyed. It was metal on metal everywhere.
It was.
The entire front end.
So yeah, that weekend or 2 weekend project turned into a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be done. But I got that finished up and done. My pickup, my swap line, it's been leaking coolant for the last 6 months. It had an external crack on the head, so I got that fixed finally. I've been reconditioning set of heads. So while I had it apart, I put a new cam in it. It sounds absolutely mean now. It's got a even better idle than it did before.
Yeah, it sounds really good. Healthy.
And then even bigger news, as you can see behind us, I got the General Mayhem out of the garage from the house and in the shop here. I got it nose to nose to the Daytona because I got to pull both motor and transmissions out of the Daytona and the 68 because I'm doing all kinds of swapping of parts, because when I first built the Daytona, I built it as just a regular 69, so I got it set up for more kind of quarter mile driving instead of highway. So 391s, high stall torque converter, and then of course I started turning into the Daytona. So now I'm kind of switching that up. I want to put some taller gears in it. If I keep that torque converter, it's just going to smoke it. So I'm taking that out, putting that in the General Mayhem, taking the one out of the General Mayhem, putting it in that. Vice versa, got to figure out some motors. So those are in here now, and that'll be happening basically from this point forward.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how long that's going to take, but hopefully it's not too long.
Yeah. And you have a motor for the General Mayhem kind of lined up, or you're trying to figure that out?
I've got two kind of okay motors that I can use.
Yeah.
And I'm just debating on which one to run.
Yeah.
So one has a ton of miles on it, but it did run. One I don't know anything about, and it looks cleaner, but it's got some rust in the cylinders I got to clean up.
Yeah.
So it was sitting outside. It turns over, but it's a little crunchy, I guess is a good word.
Yeah. You think you'll throw one in, probably maybe throw in the running one, and then maybe trying to refurbish that other one that...
Yeah, at this point in time, I'm just going to throw something in it just so it runs and drives.
Yeah.
Because, having so many vehicles to where you build one, you have fun with it, and then you get rid of it, and you take all that money and put it into another one.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to build all mine up together.
Yeah.
And so, I would love to build a motor for every one of my vehicles, but that's just impossible.
Yeah.
And even at the moment, I want to get the General Mayhem running. I just want to drive it again. So I'm just going to throw a motor in there because as much work as I want to do to it, I want to do the same amount of work to the Daytona.
Yeah.
So how many people have a Daytona that they can say they're working on?
I know. It's pretty awesome.
So it's just, that
That's
in
what I'm
itself
most
is
excited.
ridiculous.
I mean, this is cool because you can actually thrash on it and all that,
Yes.
but the Daytona, yeah, it's like you're probably not going to see or drive.
I want to get some fun videos with this, and I know a lot of people have mentioned that as well. Do a lot of roadkill type stuff. Just go thrash on this in a field.
Yeah.
And just make some more fun videos with it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then making those videos, it's even, more fun actually doing it.
Right. And
So-
I mean, that's kind of what makes roadkill so badass, especially in the beginning when they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
They had this car and they just destroyed it. They went out to the desert and just jumped it and just slid it across the desert. It was pretty awesome. So that's basically your plan with this one.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't want to, I want to ruin it, but not ruin it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's also good not to try to throw too much money into that motor if you're just going to be really hard on it. Just throw some cheaper motors in there.
And that's that's how I am with everything that I drive, anyways.
Yeah.
I don't have a light foot.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Yeah. Well, Scott Speed Shop, the other YouTube channel that does a lot of Mopar stuff, he's always telling Eric, hey, you need to throw something crazy in one of your cars, 500, 600 horsepower, but it's just so hard when you have 6 cars that you are trying to keep running.
Well, I own 6 Chargers.
Yeah.
And then I got my pickup and my crew cab on top of that, so I have, and then not all the Chargers are running. I want 4 of them to be running and driving someday. And then I want my swap line to be running and driving. I want my crew cab to be running and driving, which they are. But at the same time, even one of the kind of almost least popular or least fun vehicles is my crew cab. But I want to make that a kind of perfect daily driver.
Yeah.
So it needs a different transmission. It needs different gear axles, gears in the axles. There we go.
Yeah.
So it needs some work too. But it's just if I had the money, everything would be done.
Yeah.
But it's not. So I got to be realistic with my money and time.
Yeah.
And just do a real, kind of original, kind of roadkill style. Just throw things together with what I have laying around.
Yeah.
So
if you had a 600 horsepower motor, what would you put it in?
That's a good question.
It's like, I could see 2 things. I'd probably either say the D100 or the Daytona.
Actually, those aren't my 2 choices.
What would you choose?
Probably either General Mayhem or the D100.
Yeah.
So
D100
definitely.
Do you think that thing can even handle 600 horsepower with the leaf springs in the rear?
I think so.
Because
I built it, because it does have leaf springs, but I did build it with a set of cowl tracks.
Yeah.
So that completely eliminated the axle hop.
Yeah.
It does have an 8 3/4 in it. It's a 742 case third member. The only thing that I might have issues with is U-joints. I can put bigger U-joints in it for more strength.
Yeah.
Because they're stock, they're even still stock 4-wheel drive size U-joints.
Yeah.
I don't remember the series number, but the whole setup is rated to handle that much power potentially.
Yeah. So why not the Daytona then? Don't you want to get that thing to 200 miles an hour or something?
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Because another theory of mine on that, I don't know that being a fiberglass nose cone, and fiberglass, it's the fiberglass like resin wing. I don't know that can handle 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So
that's a good question. You should call up that company when you order it.
First thing I need to do is just build it.
Yeah.
In the first place, get it done with, and then start testing the waters.
Yeah.
And I think first thing would be to see how it handles at like 120.
Right.
And I'd be really curious to see how it does.
Yeah.
And then kind of step it progressively, do it from there.
I wonder how thick that fiberglass is. Like, so we saw the slosh tubs. That was pretty solid fiberglass. I'd imagine similar to that.
From everything I've read, so I want to go with the Stinger fiberglass.
Yeah.
I've heard their quality isn't quite as good, but it depends on who you talk to. There's some people building Daytona clones, and they build them, to the T to look like a 100% original, and they talk about the fitment being terrible, and the quality being bad. Well, it's a fiberglass part, being a realistic, and then there's some other people you talk to. Oh, it was fit, or it was great. They fit great, the good quality, whatever. It literally just depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
So, but even if I wanted to go with them just because they're cheaper, and then.
Well, who makes the metal one? Isn't there like a company that makes the metal?
It's not a company. It's a guy in his garage in Georgia, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forget what his name is.
Jeez.
But he hand makes them, and they're like $5,000, I think.
Okay.
And you have to go pick them up.
Yeah.
So Stinger, I can have them shipped here.
Yeah.
So,
dang.
But and yeah, same thing. It's like triple the price to go steel. So, what I'll end up doing is if the quality is too thin, I can fiberglass. I'll add fiberglass to it.
Yeah, just reinforce it.
Reinforce, yeah. So, which that'll definitely help. So, I would imagine it could handle 200 miles an hour, but at the same time, it's just I don't know.
Well, it could just blow up.
It's just, be cruising along at, 180 and the front end just comes apart. So.
Yeah, if you get a pocket of air somewhere underneath it,
Who knows? But, yeah, so there's a lot of questions with having a big motor like that in the Daytona.
Yeah.
So, there's way less questions with the D100, so I'd probably go with the D100.
Yeah, and that'd be fun just sliding around.
Absolutely.
I mean, that one, it's not like you're going to be like sliding around in that thing or, doing a whole bunch of burnouts. That's basically just like a cruiser.
When I'm done with it, I want my Daytona to basically be my show car.
Yeah.
My just nice car, take it out, have fun, take it to car shows.
Yeah.
Just be, the whole idea of, which a lot of Mopards or a lot of cars, classic cars do this anyways, just looking at it is cool.
Yeah.
And just that stunning factor of a Daytona Charger pulling into a parking lot somewhere.
Right. It's definitely a car you don't see anywhere. I mean, you see more Superbirds than Daytonas. Well, but I think production numbers are the reason why. There's, a couple thousand Superbirds or 1,000 or something?
There's no exact number because I fudged their number so much. I think they were supposed to build 2,500 cars. I think it was one car or two car per dealership throughout the U.S., something like that. And I know, but then they also doubled up a lot of their VIN numbers. They ran the cars through and counted a bunch of cars twice.
They were like a normal car and then a car with a nose cone, basically?
No, same car.
Or like
they
two?
both.
Oh.
The car went through and got checked. VIN number and everything wrote down as one of the cars. They then put it back in line.
Is this so they could like
ran it through again.
So they had enough production cars to race?
Enough production cars to race. So on paper they made 2,500 cars, but in reality I think they only ended up making like 1,800. Oh damn! But 1,800 or so cars to the 503 Daytonas. Yeah. So even at that, they're still almost triple the amount of Superbirds.
Right.
And that's a topic that has become irritating as well, I've come to find. Oh, cool, is that a Superbird? No, man, it's a Daytona.
Right.
Well, everybody knows that as a freaking Superbird.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if that has to do with just history or,
It's just the most popular thing. People know,
I was going to say probably just because it's more common.
Yeah. Well, I don't think a lot of people even know the difference. Probably, when they look at them side by side, they don't see the rake in the wing. They don't see the small little differences in the side. And
they don't see the completely different body like I do.
Yeah, exactly.
The Roadrunner.
Yeah, you're like,
Charger.
that's not. Or just when you're looking at,
it's funny. I can look at it and I can see not a single thing the same.
Yeah, it's completely different.
It's a completely different car, but yeah, the general person sees them as the same car.
Yeah, well, it's like the E30 M3 versus the E30. People are like, what are you
Those are the
mean?
same to me.
Yeah.
So, I get it.
It's not even the same. There's what, like 2 body panels are the same. Maybe one.
Yeah.
The roof, or like the hood and the sunroof. Only thing is the same.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Anyways, so that's the project.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Daytona, like I said, I need to be working on that one. So,
Just need some money. It's not cheap.
It's
the
not
whole
cheap.
front end, that's why there's no front end on there. 'Cause who knows how much that thing's going to cost.
Yeah, like I said, I'll get there.
Yeah.
I need to, I'm trying to get parts and stuff cleaned up and sold off.
Yeah.
So, and we've discussed that as well. There's some parts that are so hard to sell.
Yeah.
If you have nice little, box-sized items that you can sell on eBay, super easy. They're gone. No problem.
Yeah, once you got transfer cases and motors and things too big to ship.
Which is what I have a lot of.
Yeah.
But, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the kind of update on projects.
Yeah.
So hopefully the Daytona is soon. General Mayhem's going to get back on the road. We're going to have some fun with that. So, and aside from that, we had a topic we wanted to talk about, right?
Yep. Let's talk about some ruined trucks.
Some ruined
Slam trucks and chopped up trucks and trucks you just can't use as trucks anymore, apparently.
Yeah, ruined.
Yeah.
And I know you've come to hear it a lot. Living where I do, it's a lot of farm country around here. I hear it constantly from the farmers out here because I, drive my truck to work. And yeah, you've ruined that truck. And I've come to ask them though, and you hear a lot from even a lot of car people as well. You get the purists as well. I know a lot of people are angry with what I've done with my truck, and there's a lot of other people that upgrade their trucks the same way. Oh, you should have left that stock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the whole the ruin side of it. What do people say about that?
You just can't do truck stuff. You can't throw stuff in the back. It's too low. You can't go four-wheeling. You can't do a lot of stuff. Which, first off, let's talk about just your truck.
Okay.
How it was from factory.
So yeah, my truck from factory, slant
Can
six.
you do all of that? Four-wheeling,
Well, no,
throw
and that's
stuff
where
in the back.
a lot of the farmers around here,
Yeah.
they talk about, you can't use that truck as a regular truck. So, well, okay, tell me what my truck could do before.
Yeah.
It was a slant six, 3 on the tree, single cab, short bed, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drum brakes.
Yep.
It was basically in 1968 when that truck came out. It was the cheapest truck as long as a Dodge that you could buy. Painted wheels, painted bumpers, no extra chrome anything.
Yeah.
Literally the cheapest truck you could buy, making it basically just a work truck. Companies are typically who bought those. It transported people to a job site, hauled some supplies,
Yeah.
some toolboxes. That was about it.
And not a lot. It's a short
So,
bed.
but yeah, now with it being lowered,
Yeah.
a 440 4-speed, bigger rear axle, disc brakes, stops better, it handles.
A lot better, yeah.
The only thing that I could really say different on my truck is the way I had to raise my bed floor.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a technical less square footage of space in the bed now.
Yeah. But there's no really height limit either.
No.
So, I mean, you're still good there. But also, I think clearance is what they probably see.
Clearance
first.
is probably what a lot of people
They're like,
see.
oh, now you can't, go up some hills or...
Yeah.
You can, you can hit speed bumps and all that. It's not that
speed
low.
bumps. I just have to, literally, to drive my truck, you can drive it pretty much identical as you could before.
Yeah.
You would just maybe have to slow down a little bit more for a speed bump. Other than that,
Yeah, you're good.
you can't take it off-road. You're going to tell me you're going to take my slant 6 2-wheel drive short bed off-road anyways?
Yeah, you're going to go, take that thing to Moab. Probably not. That's not really the truck to go off-road in anyway, so.
Yeah.
There's nothing really. I mean, you basically turned it into a sports car, but it still has the pickup bed and functionality of a truck. It's like an El Camino, but even a better handling El Camino with the big block.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Well, I guess, a lot of it too. I think it's maybe the era that we grew up in, or I think it's almost actually the era right before us. And we grew up looking at it as history, which is the whole mini truck scene.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to discuss that. That's kind of where it originated. And I don't personally understand the whole mini truck thing, where they're like super, super decked out. And
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a version of the lowrider scene a little bit. Like they carried over the paint jobs and like the hydraulics and stuff. But I mean, that's the technology they had in the 90s. That's what people are doing. Hydraulics and airbags is kind of coming out for dropping trucks, probably early 2000s, I think. And so they're
probably 90s, 2000s.
They basically stole all the stuff from the lowrider scene, and then they just brought that over to trucks because they wanted to slam trucks on the ground and do all kinds of crazy stuff with that. And then I think that just kind of been refined, like, early 2000s when all these airbag companies started coming out and actually made these things a lot more functional, that you can manage ride height, and it's a lot more comfortable than a hydraulic vehicle too.
Yeah.
So now the airbags are coming out. And there's certain trucks that weren't really classics in the 90s, like square body Chevys, and even the 60s trucks might not have been worth that much money. People just wanted a hot rod, 80s, really cheap little Dakotas, or what, those little 80s, like those mini trucks that aren't full.
Well, and I've definitely seen that with even just trucks in general. The whole, muscle cars are ridiculously priced.
Yeah.
And they have been for a long time, and they're only getting worse. And you see it on the shows a lot of time. They talk about it, and I think it was an episode of Hot Rod Garage the other day.
Yeah.
Lucky Costa and Tony Angelo. I forget, it was one of their newer episodes, but they were building a car, and newer Mustang, I think. But it was funny. Tony Angelo was talking about muscle cars. He's like, yeah, some of the cars I used to buy in high school for $2,000 or $3,000 are $10,000 or $15,000 nowadays.
Yeah.
And then Lucky chimed up. He's like, yeah, the cars you bought for $2,000 or $3,000 I used to buy for $500.
Right. Yeah, that's how it is. And that's probably how the mini truck thing started, is because people were modifying trucks that were dirt cheap.
Well, like I say, I don't know that it's necessarily specifically mini trucks. I think it's trucks in general.
Yeah. They've always been cheaper than muscle cars.
They've always been cheaper than muscle cars, so I think people who enjoy muscle cars but can't necessarily afford it naturally just turn to a truck. Well, I can do all the same stuff to a truck, have fun with that truck, and spend a fifth of the amount of money on it.
Right.
And so I think that's where it became more popular to end up actually
just
modifying a truck.
Yeah, that's true. And it's all the same parts, like same motors, same transmissions some of the
A lot
time.
of
You
times,
can throw all the 4-speed out of a car into it, and it's basically the exact same thing. And I think it's even more functional than.
I think it is. If you're gonna have like one vehicle, something you can actually go, haul some supplies in, go buy some wood for your house for a project, and you can take your truck. Well, and I guess that leads to another kind of style of where these trucks originate as well, is the shop truck idea.
Yeah.
People, had a business and wanted to run parts back and forth, and just cruising around in a stock truck didn't represent their company very well.
Right.
So it was just natural for them to do some customization to a truck.
Yeah.
And typically that meant, upgrade the suspension, get it lower so it handles better, big motor, better transmission, positive of some sort.
Yeah.
And
then throw your name on the side, and then people are going to be knocking on your door.
Throw your name on the side.
How can I get a truck like that?
So, and where originated as a shop truck, this is just my parts runner for the other things I build.
Yeah.
I think that almost became its style in itself.
And, I mean, just visually, I think a truck slammed on the ground looks
well, of course, I think that's where the age difference comes in with us.
Yeah.
We grew up with it, so visually to me, it's just that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you get a 4-wheel drive, it's supposed to be up in the air, big monster, mud tires. You get a 2-wheel drive, it's supposed to be sitting low.
Yeah, pretty much.
Except, I still believe in this one. There's always that kind of middle ground. Long beds.
Yeah.
What's the popularity between long beds and short beds? What do you see it as?
What do you mean, like why people like the short beds? Just the proportions. That's what I see.
Okay.
Why?
That's what I see.
Yeah. That's not like functionality. Obviously, a long bed is probably better, and a crew cab is probably better, and all this more room, and you can do more stuff with it. But yeah, it's just proportions wise. Yeah. That's what I see on it.
That's what I see. Yeah. Visually, when you take a long bed, let's just for example, single cab long bed, and set that guy on the ground. You're not got an aircraft carrier to land on the back. Is what it looks like to me. Yeah, you get proportions wise when you lower that. It's more even. It has a better look to it.
Yeah. What I do like is the dualies that I've seen. I think there's a couple guys out in Arizona that have like dualies that are slammed to the ground, like old 60s and 70s Chevys. I think the dually fenders kind of help with the proportions. Kind of breaks it up a little bit more, rather than just like a long flat panel along the side. You have like sections, and I think
one of the trucks I used to have was my that brown dually, 78 D300 club cab long bed dually, and that thing was 2-wheel drive, and naturally that thing just sat pretty low anyways. And I don't know that it necessarily sat low, but I think because it was so long, and then with those wide dualies, I think it just gave it a lower look. Yeah, and I think that would have been an awesome truck to have sitting down on the ground. Yeah,
I think just a flat panel on the side just makes it look weird if it's too stretched out. But like all those 60s cars, 50s cars, they're, also 18 to 20 feet long. I think they look better slammed on the ground. Yeah. But I don't know if it's... I think because of their It's the cab of the truck. I think the cab's so small, and then you just have so much hanging out back before. But then even
well,
though,
that's
like,
where
cars have a nice slope for that C-pillar.
Usually, and I say one of the neat cars I've always seen is a lot of the C-body Mopars. When you get into the two-door C-bodies, where you have almost a 20-foot long car.
Are you talking about like the Chrysler 300s and like the
Chrysler
60s?
300s, and even the early or the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
That's when I think they got the biggest in the C-bodies. But the Newport is one of them. The Newport, the Fury, those style cars, when you had a two-door, the front end, it was probably a 6 or 7 foot long hood, it looked like.
Yeah.
And the deck lid was almost equally as long.
Yeah, that's true.
And the whole back of the car, you open up those trunks, and typically a lot of people measure the trunks by the amount of bodies you can get in there.
Yeah.
You can get 15 bodies in there. It looks like they're absolutely massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're so long on the back, but they're equally as long on the front usually.
Yeah. Well, it's probably like the rule of thirds is kind of what's incorporated in those cars, I think.
I can see that.
Like
a third for the front, a third for the cab, and a third for the rear.
It just makes it look good. It's the same thing with like framing for photography or anything. But yeah, it just looks funny if you have your front of your cab for a truck, and then the hood, and then a cab, and that takes up like half of it, and then you just have another half or even longer for the long day.
It seems empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know
maybe like a roll bar or something would help, or a light rack, or
I can see, just
something, or a toolbox. I've always seen like a long bed with a toolbox usually
definitely, because it helps even out that offset look. Yeah, absolutely.
What? So what do you feel about static trucks versus bag trucks?
Bag trucks. I'm one direction on that right now, but partially because I've never messed with bagged.
Yeah.
I do like static drops, but I've also done quite a bit of research on it, and it usually depends on what you want to do with your truck. And as of now, I just want a simple daily driver. I can hop in it and go. Or, not necessarily daily driver, but a daily driver type truck. Just something to where you hop in it, you go, and you don't really have anything to worry about. Because I've heard a lot of issues or a lot of kind of complaints with people who do have airbags, of having to either wait for your bags to fill up when you first fire the truck up, or having to constantly mess with them if you have any airlines that get burned onto exhaust, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And of course that can be your initial build. But I know I've heard a lot about airbags being more finicky.
Yeah.
And so naturally I just go to kind of the static drop side. But in that, I also haven't messed with air ride. Yeah. I've heard how nice air ride rides when you
ride
cruise.
Quality.
Ride quality. It is neat just to be able to flip of a switch, have adjustability and ride height.
Yeah, you don't, you want to go over a speed bump or get into your driveway or something and just lift your whole truck up, or lower the back end so you can just roll a motorcycle or whatever you need, lawnmower in the back of it or anything. You load up whatever you want. So I'm pretty excited. I mean, this has been something that I've wanted to do since first C10.
I'm excited as well because I've never actually experienced air ride. Yeah. Or never actually ridden in it really, never messed with it. Mm-hmm. So it is something that I would really like to play with so I can have a better, description or understanding of it, I guess.
Yeah, comparison. I mean, it's going to be cool to drive your truck, your 68 versus my 69 GMC, and just put them next to each other and just, ride quality. I feel like, track performance-wise, I think yours is probably going to do better. It feels like it grips really well.
And that's one of the things that I've also read and heard on static drops is more sporty, if you will.
Yeah.
Which definitely, as you're saying, I can't believe how well my truck handles.
Right.
It's got hardly any body roll, which is completely unusual for a pickup.
Yeah. If you're just looking at the specs, my square body is pretty much exactly the same thing as your D100. I mean, it's coils, springs, like leaf springs in the back. Yep. I have front sway bar. It's pretty much the same thing. We probably have the same, travel and everything. But
yeah, I can see that.
My truck has so much more body roll and just does not feel like it's connected to the road as much as yours. I don't know if it still feels taller for some reason, even though we measured it and everything's like an inch off or so. Or
I think yours overall was roughly about an inch higher than mine, which is all. Yeah. Which is realistically nothing when you're talking about a lowered vehicle.
Right.
But yeah, for whatever reason, like you said, yours just doesn't seem to be as connected with the road.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, my whole front end. Like, I could probably swap out all the bushings and try to do a lot more work to it, but I don't know. Did you go through every single bushing and everything on your D100? Is it completely new on the front end?
It's almost completely new.
Yeah.
So, because part of the way I lowered it, it's got all new lower control arm suspension on that thing.
Yeah.
And so the upper control arm bushings are original. I changed the upper ball joints, changed the lower ball joints and lower bushings, but that just came with changing the whole lower control arm.
Right.
And then, yeah, even you know, before I had a sway bar on that thing still handled, I think, better than your C10 still.
For
or
sure.
that C15, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright.
So it turns out, if you have a Sony Alpha, 3 I think is what I have, that only records for 30 minutes, so we were kind of talking, not recording for a minute there.
So yeah, we recorded, or weren't recording for 5-10 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, well, you didn't miss much.
We didn't miss much. So whatever we have, some of this might be repetitive, might not. But, so we'll go back to it.
Yeah. Anyways, but
the whole original side of this was we were talking trucks.
Yeah.
And we got kind of off subject a little bit. Not really. Still talking about the trucks, but we're kind of, you're asking me specifics about my D100.
Yeah. So I wanted to know, like, why, well, first off, what was your plan before you decided you were going to swap the entire chassis out of that step side? Like, how are you going to lower that? Or what was your plan with it? Were you actually going to make it as low as this? Was that your initial plan? Or were you just going to, like, just drop it a little bit and just give it a good stance and just drive it as is?
I literally only dreamed about a truck being this low.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd actually have it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you could, it's hard to even imagine that thing's static. I mean, when you look at it, everyone asks you, hey, is that thing bagged or what, you know?
Yeah. You know, what kind of bag is it? How was it bagged? So like, no, it's static. That's static.
Yeah. And you still have a lot of travel, too, which is surprising.
Well, and, yeah, a lot of it basically has to do with how I lowered it. My frame and suspension and everything is because I channeled the body and kind of the shape of that swept line body versus the 72 and up body.
Yeah.
It just sits over that frame so much better. So everything frame-wise and drivetrain and everything's tucked up into the truck really well.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that hangs out from underneath the truck.
Yeah.
And my body on the outside is actually the lowest part of the truck.
Well, your geometry is also the same, which is what kind of changes with like the C10 stuff. You're changing all this geometry trying to get it lower. With yours, with the body, like basically channeling the body, you can keep all the nice drivability of the geometry.
I dropped the suspension a little bit, and then dropped the body a little bit, which gave me a big drop.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think it would just the way the suspension works on these, it's pretty slick. Being that it's a 72 and up frame, it's van lower control arms up front, which are pocketed. And so just the pocket, I actually have stock coil springs up front, and it's just a different style lower control arm, and that's what lowers it in the front.
Right.
And so that gave me 3 inches, and then just axle flip in the back, so even my leaf springs in the back are the same.
Right.
And then because I had an axle hop issue, I modified a set of Caltrax for it, and fixed that. So ride-wise, this thing still rides like it was the original Slant 6 truck.
I'd say better.
Better.
I mean, that thing had a lot of like body roll too when you first got it.
It did. Well, and that came with the height.
Right.
But yeah, so as you're saying, suspension geometry, because of the kind of parts available for that and how I lowered it, all that pretty much stayed the same. Yeah. And then because I then lowered the body beyond that point, going from the 70s body to the swept line, when you open up the door, it's got those steps on the side.
Yeah.
So just putting that on there gave it a lower look.
Yeah.
And then I also cut the body up past that.
Yeah, getting into your truck is really weird because it has that step. The steps like the lowest part of the entire truck. There's only a little bit of body underneath it. Yeah. So you step up like
I think the
5 inches, 6 inches.
I think the step is literally 7 inches off the ground.
Yeah, it's weird.
And yes, and then of course the floor steps up past that. But yeah, because of that step, you open up the door and your feet kind of hit the step first, and then you go to the ground. Yeah. And you literally have to get up out of the truck, and it is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, the original truck, what kind of made me go in the whole direction I did, I was initially going to sell the step side, which was the 78, and I built that as kind of a replacement for the swept line, because I was having such a hard time finding a good swept line.
Yeah.
And I built it, it was a cool truck, and I was still it wasn't quite neat, and so I was still on the lookout for a swept line when I found it, and got it at auction. And so yeah, I had both of them sitting there side by side, and literally everything that I did to that step side, I wanted to do to my swept line. Yeah. But suspension-wise up front, they're not built for it.
Yeah.
They're solid I-beam front suspension, leaf springs, 4-wheel drum brakes. So I was looking into independent suspension setups, which none of those were cheap options or easy. Even if you go Crown Vic, you're dealing with a lot of metric stuff over your then standard kind of truck. So you gotta have like custom brake lines, mix your nuts and bolts, custom motor mounts for whatever you put in there. Yeah. So that led down a whole nother kind of nightmare road. And So then I kind of looked into keeping all the original suspension, which would have been the I-beam. And you can do an axle flip both front and rear, which was kind of an old school popular way to do that. But then that changes all your steering geometry, and I guess it gives you really terrible bump steer.
Yeah.
Plus your leaf spring, tons of body roll, and you're still drum brakes. Well, then you can upgrade to disc brakes on that I-beam, and you're not messing with a very good performance truck at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have looked good, but it still wouldn't have driven very well.
Right.
And so pretty much all the options I was looking at just honestly sucked.
Yeah.
And I didn't like any of them. And it was just, man, same thing. I had both trucks sitting side by side. And it's like literally everything I did to that step side, I wanted to do to that swept line.
Yeah.
And so instead of selling it off and putting the money into the swept line, I just decided to kind of almost cut my losses, if you will, with the step side, and just pulled that body off. And because I did some measuring and had them sitting side by side, so I was comparing them, and I realized I think this is going to work.
Yeah.
And I had some ideas of how I can cut up the body. And originally I was going to have it sit higher.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, everything's going to fit way better if I have the cab set up a little higher. The front end's going to fit better. The steering setup and all that's going to be a little bit better. And then I'm still going to have to modify the bed. Regardless, I had to modify the bed.
Right.
And I was talking with one of the guys that came into my work. He's a body guy, big hot rodder. And he said, why don't you just make the cab fit the way you want? And then he says, you can make everything else fit.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to have to modify the rest of it anyways.
Yeah.
You're right, actually.
That's true.
So I started cutting.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that would not have been my first thought. Is, let's channel it. But I mean, if you, that's what people were doing back, in the 50s and 60s, hot rod those 30s cars. They were channeling those things. Which is kind of interesting that back in the 50s and 60s they were lowering those cars. Those 30s hot rods were damn low.
Yeah.
And then that kind of disappeared, the lowering cars. And then now it's kind of.
Well, and it's interesting because the channel on my truck isn't kind of your traditional channel.
Yeah.
Because it's on a different frame now, the frames are different shapes. So, the front of my cab actually clears the frame. It was the back of the cab I was having issues with.
Yeah.
So what I was originally going to do was set the back of the cab where it needed to be, get the cab level with the frame, and I would have had to build up the motor or the cab mounts up front.
Right.
And so that's where I then got the front sitting where I wanted it to, and cut out the back of the cab to clear the frame, and just made that sit where I wanted to.
Yeah.
And then I had to cut it ended up being 3 inches total out of the back of the cab, and it's basically cut at an angle. And 2 inches from the radiator support.
Yeah.
And so I got all that sitting where I needed to. And then, modifying the bed was going to happen irregardless.
Right.
And I had a bunch of ideas how to do that, and I ended up really liking what I did.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very functional and still actually looks somewhat original.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't really notice that you raise the bed until you kind of point it out.
Yeah, and
it's not raised like so much. Like I've seen some where it's like half of the distance. Like it's
very, very obvious.
Or so.
I did 5 inches.
5 inches, yeah.
Yeah, which you'd think would be way more noticeable.
Yeah. It was also nice that you're able to keep that factory metal with like the paint and everything, so it's not like some people just rhino line the inside of their bed or something because the bed's just destroyed. But your bed looked pretty decent.
It did. And it's still got pretty much all of its original paint still.
Yeah. And you use the original sides, so it's like a double layer, right? So you have the...
Yes, and that's one thing that Dodge did, which, come to find out, I liked a lot of different years of Dodge throughout time until I owned this truck. And it's kind of funny because 68 wasn't always my favorite year until I actually owned one and then started looking and learned more history about the swept line trucks. And then I come to find I liked pretty much everything about the 68.
Yeah.
And one of them's the beds. They changed the beds in 65, I think. 65 and a half was the crossover year.
The what do you call it? Just the rear, the door.
So, no. So, sort of. Visually, that's one of the things about it, but it's a single wall construction versus dual wall construction.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so, the old ones, they're funny. You look at the inside of the bed, and it's the same shape as the outside because the inside is the outside. It's just one piece of metal.
Yeah.
And they welded the inner fenders to that. So if you look at it from the outside, if you look at a nice painted truck that's original,
you can
actually see the spot weld marks on the outside of the truck.
There's probably a lot of dents from the inside out too, yeah?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. And that was one of the reasons I started going with they came out with the dual wall construction. Is that, and I guess campers were an issue. Yeah. You couldn't fit campers into the...
So are those the ones that have the weird tailgate that's like really narrow?
Yeah, super narrow tailgate. It doesn't have your traditional latch or anything. It's got the hook and chains.
Yeah.
And so, which I liked, but then, when it comes time to working on it and parts and the chains, I'm like, that's just... It's not as much of a kind of traditional truck.
Yeah.
And so then I do like the newer style bed. And then yeah, the which 65 and a half, and by 60, I think it was 65 and a half is also when they changed the headlights, I think.
Yeah.
Or was it 64? Whenever that was.
Those early headlights are god awful. The like dog dish headlights.
So those are actually the mid headlights.
Are they? Okay.
So the early ones, 61 to 64, 65, somewhere in there. Anyways, the early ones were the 4 headlights.
Okay.
And those were the good grills. 61 was that egg crate grill. It was the 1 year only. And then they went to that really kind of heavy duty steel grill from 62, I swear it was 64 was the last year.
Yeah.
I think it was 64 and 65. That's what we're saying anyways.
Yeah.
64, 65, and then you had that 65 to 67, which was that bug eye headlight.
Yeah, the ones that Roadkill brought over here.
Yes. The ones that Roadkill purchased and brought here. Yeah. Freiberger likes them. I still just, and that's one of the things he said. People hate them so much. That's one of the reasons he likes it. But there's some people that just absolutely love that front end, and I just can't get over it.
Yeah. Well, I like the thing I like the most about the 68 is those louvers that are like factory built into the hood. You don't.
Yes. Well, yeah. So cool. Yeah, you want to talk about a truck? I like the bed, so that means I want a 65 and up truck.
Yeah.
That hood is my favorite, and so 65 and up, or 65 and a half and up, you're only dealing with the bug eye headlights, or 1 year only for that hood was 68.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I really, if I had a choice of like making a truck, would be pretty much my entire truck, except I want the old refrigerator style door handles.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are.
That'd be about the only difference, and I think that was 60. I can't remember if they did that 65 and a half as well. But somewhere right in that same area, they changed that over as well.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
So, but yeah, those are neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so literally that's the only thing that I don't like about my truck is the door handles.
Yeah.
But even, they're the same kind of traditional style as the Chargers, so they're still a good looking handle.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong about them.
Yeah.
But
just a little more retro. That they've been making those doors handles since like what?
Oh yeah, that kind of just that swooping style.
Yeah, a lot of like 20s cars and 30s cars didn't have that. And like 39 Buick had that kind of like the same style handle.
Yeah. But yeah, so other than that, those that truck, it's pretty much that 68's pretty much perfect in my eyes.
And then so 69, they just had like kind of more of a flat hood.
69, they went to a more squared off style hood, I guess.
Okay.
And it didn't have as many. It had a couple kind of hood lines going up the center, but they weren't as drastic as the 68. And then they got rid of those factory louvers. They're more boring to me.
Yeah. Nice.
And they were a good look, but they weren't as neat or like as much design went into them. It looked like.
Yeah.
So. And then I love the 68, 69 grill, and then that's when they went to the aluminum grills in 70, and they just to me they've always looked kind of cheap.
Yeah.
But they're still a good looking truck. I'd still rather have one of those than the bug eye ones.
Yeah, seriously. It's just like, I don't know, it's hard to make those things look cool. Even if you put the right wheels on it and dropped it down and did whatever, it's just like, just the front end just really kills the truck.
It does.
So are you gonna run bigger wheels on that truck soon, or what?
Yeah, actually, we've got some on order.
Yeah, some Detroit steel wheels.
Detroit Steel Wheel
some
Company,
20-inch, right?
I forget what style they called them. Detroit Smoothies, are they?
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty sweet.
Yeah, 20 by 8s up front, 20 by 9s in the back.
Yeah, and what do you run right now? They're 17s, but how wide are they?
17 by 8, all the way around.
Yeah, nice.
So, it'll be an inch wider on the back, which I should have room for. If not, there's bed modifications going to be in place, which isn't a big deal.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to have an issue? So I saw like your power steering box is a little bit bigger than like the manual one, and like it looked like it was like almost in your wheel well. Are you going to have any issues with the turning and stuff?
Might.
We'll just have to see. If it hits,
we'll have to
I guess.
see.
Like, yeah.
There's adjustments in there to where you can actually do steering stops.
Yeah.
And I might just have to adjust those.
Stop it there. I mean, so I won't be able to turn right
I won't be able to turn it sharp, yeah. But cause I know, like on the, I watched it again recently, just because it's been a little while since I watched it. But the Fast and Loud episode where they built their hodgepodge Dodge, they called it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they put that, which amazingly they didn't lower that very far.
Yeah.
That thing sat way taller than I remember.
How does it compare against your truck?
Definitely taller.
Is it? I'll have to look at it again.
By like several inches.
Really?
So, I mean, they got it really low, but the other thing is they put 20s on it. I'm pretty sure they're 20s. I don't think they ever actually said.
Yeah.
They look like 20s. But they're having rubbing issues on the front.
Yeah.
And they're having rubbing issues with the inner fenders.
Okay. What do they do? I haven't seen it in a while.
where my inner fender is basically, because you have the inner fender that's built in,
Yeah.
and then you actually have the actual bolt-in inner fender. That comes straight down. They just built some that came out and then came down.
Okay. Nice.
So,
Do you think you're going to have to modify your inner fenders, or what are you going to do with these
from
20s?
what I can see, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, as far as those parts, the top side of the fender, I think is where I'm going to have more issues than anything else.
Right.
So, I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Yeah. I guess just put those 20s on. But then you're also talking about the 20s, the entire like tire profile is taller. With whatever you're going to run in there is going to be taller than your 17s. So it's actually going to lift your truck up. So to counteract that, you're going to do drop spindles, right?
Yes, which I had on order.
Yeah.
But they're on back order now. And they're back on order, or they're on back order for months.
Yeah.
So I just got my money back for now.
Yeah. So are you still going to buy those, you think, when they come back in stock? Or
I'm not
just
entirely
see what
sure.
it looks like with the 20s? And
So I may sacrifice a little bit of height.
Yeah.
And just run a smaller profile tire up front, and then I'll just have to run a bigger profile tire in the back.
Yeah.
I think I've got room for that in the back. And so it'll end up raising my whole truck basically by an inch.
Yeah.
Which isn't, too much, but...
Yeah. I'm just going to see what it looks like.
See what it looks like, but ideally I would want to get those lower again.
Yeah. But then at that point, then it's like, all right, now you might have to raise your inner wheel well, the top side of it at least.
Top side of the inner wheel well. I'm probably gonna have to do something about the hood hinges.
Yeah, because the bad thing about that is like the hood hinges actually like cut into the top side of the inner fender wells. So that's why you can't even raise that if you wanted to.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of work if that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of like the Ford guys or early '60s Chevy guys, they have the same kind of problem. And there's certain hood hinges that go off like the shocks, nitrogen shocks or whatever, so you can kind of get rid of all that spring. Yeah,
there's a lower profile style, and I'm definitely gonna have to do something.
Yeah,
it's not gonna fit.
Yeah,
but visually, the same thing. It'll be worth it. This isn't the first time I've had to cut this truck up before.
Yeah, true.
So, and have the style I really want. It'll be more than worth it.
Yeah, I feel like we've had good conversations about.
Anyway. I'm sorry, what?
I don't know, just lower trucks. Like, I feel like we've had good conversations. Like, you always call me and you're like, oh, this guy freaking, told me that my truck sucks or whatever. You're on either whether it's in person and say, oh, you ruined that truck, or if it's on a YouTube video and people are like, oh my God, why did you do that to this freaking...
And there's a lot of examples of that. And so I guess that gets back to kind of one of the topics that we kind of bypassed.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of a very simple question, kind of, if you will, what can my truck... my truck, your truck, anybody who's lowered these trucks, whatever.
Yeah.
What can it not do now that it could do before?
Right.
And my truck specifically, and then we can even use your truck as well. My truck was a slant 6, 3 on the tree, single cab, short bed, 2-wheel drive work truck. It was just an old, low horsepower work truck.
Yeah.
It hauled people. It's literally, I think the only thing I can think of in my head that this thing can not do now, that the old one can do, and it's just the fact that it can do it better.
Yeah.
Curbs.
Yeah. I think it's more of a perception of people's perception of a new truck versus an old truck. Like, people are putting the perception of a new truck onto your old truck.
And I've actually definitely seen that, because one of the guys that comes into Napa, one of the farmers, he gives me all kind of shit. He's joking about a lot of it, but he's also serious about some of it. But yeah, he constantly compares my truck to his. He's got a newer Ram.
Yeah.
And it's a crew cab, long bed, flatbed, 4-wheel drive, dually.
Yeah, and that thing's supposed to haul freaking huge ass trailers.
Yeah.
Like,
and
do everything around the farm.
One of the things he always tells me, he says, well, let's play follow the leader. He says, I'll be in my truck and you be in yours and you follow me, and we'll see how far you make it.
Yeah.
And I just laugh, because I'm like, well, even if my truck, before I did what I did to it, let's go back to it being completely stock. That slant 6, 2-wheel drive, short bed. I wouldn't make it any further than I would now.
Yeah, exactly. Now you got less horsepower too.
Yeah, more ground clearance, but less horsepower. So
yeah, you're pretty much
take
either way.
So like I said, I had a little bit more ground clearance. Was it?
Yeah.
And that might be the perception that people have wrong too. New vehicles. It was pretty normal back in the day. 2-wheel drive versus 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
How many 2-wheel drives are produced nowadays?
For trucks, not as many. They're pretty much all-wheel drive, or 4-wheel drive trucks.
I can't even, off the top of my head, I can't even name a truck that comes in 2-wheel drive.
Yeah. Well, 2-wheel drives have always been cheaper anyways.
Yes.
And people have always seen 2-wheel drive trucks as kind of like useless anyways. Like, for new trucks or even 90s trucks or any kind of truck, people are like, well, why
Well,
would you buy
and
that?
yes and no, because if you go even further back, there was a point in time where four-wheel drives were almost not common at all.
Yeah.
One of the examples I can have is my dad. He had a couple Fords through, his younger age. They're all two-wheel drives.
Yeah.
And Fords
Are we
especially...
talking like 70s Fords or what?
Late 60s, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Mid 60s, late 60s.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a point where four-wheel drive got a lot better. It was very clunky, not a highway kind of vehicle.
Well, I was going to say, because even if you... two-wheel drives were definitely seen as more of the daily driver. And the four-wheel drives were definitely the work trucks.
Right.
Because if you even look at Dodge almost followed the same path as like Ford or Chevy. Well, actually, they were all pretty much on the same path.
Yeah.
I think Dodge was a little bit ahead on the four-wheel drives with the Power Wagon.
Yeah.
Because they've had those for freaking ever since the
30s or so?
the war, World War era. And so that's just carried on for that whole time. But even your regular civilian kind of use vehicles, the four-wheel drives really didn't catch on.
Yeah.
And Dodge, in those days, their Power Wagons were so industrially built. And you had, PTO-driven winches that were mounted to the front. And they were on the spectrum of ugly, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just built to work. And they weren't... And then they're, honestly, at the time, usually considered god-awful expensive.
Yeah.
And so that's where you get into the two-wheel drives then. There were a point in time where two-wheel drives were more common.
Yeah. I think definitely in the 60s. 70s is when I think the four-wheel drive started to strive. And that's when people were like, I want a 70s, like the high boys and like all that square bodies. I think a square body is kind of cooler in a four-wheel drive anyways.
Yeah.
But the 60s definitely two-wheel drive's the way to go. And that's the way that you find them anyways.
Yeah.
Like try to find a freaking, a second-gen C10 four-wheel drive. Really rare. You're not going to find a lot of them.
Uh-huh. And yeah, that just breaks down to the trucks being, the two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. There was a time where, you also didn't have multiple vehicles in a household.
Yeah.
A lot of times you only have one vehicle. Same thing back to my parents growing up. My dad, they were, one of the kind of fortunate people, if you will, who had two cars.
Yeah.
My mom had a car and then my dad had a truck.
Yeah, sure.
And there's pictures of my sister's quite a bit older, so there's more pictures of her. But up in the mountains with his, he had a lot of Fords growing up. Two-wheel drive Fords with tire chains on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
And going up a snowy mountain road.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, definitely like comparing your truck to a new truck, it's like it's not even apples to apples really. I mean, all these new trucks are, he probably has some high horsepower or, like a diesel freaking
Cummins
all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive truck that's ready to haul anything, and it's probably got, traction control and all this crazy stuff. I mean, that's a badass truck. It's great for anything and everything, probably. But it's, we're building these things because we like hot rods. We're hot rodders. We want something cool, low to the ground, fast, just badass. Yeah. But we can actually do something with it. It's like a El Camino, but looks better, I think.
Yeah, El Camino, but looks better. Yeah, functional but fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, you something you can still use, but something you can enjoy and use as a what is it, like a toy is a good word. And instead of a piece of work equipment, it's something you can just have fun with.
Yeah. It's like, well, why don't you take this thing and just freaking try to haul some stuff or go off-roading with it? Which actually, this might not be awful compared to that D100. This might actually be better.
This might be a little better off-road.
But still, it's like, you're not going to compare this to that guy's, that farmer's truck.
Yeah, same thing. It's honestly, it's comparing a car to a truck. It's, take, a 2016 Ram pickup and compare it to a 2016 Hyundai, Honda Accent. There we go. Little two-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Off subject. That just reminded me of something else. There's a truck for sale on Craigslist right now.
Yeah.
The title of it is Frame Off Rotisserie Restoration.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. It was a really nice truck. It was a Ford.
Yeah.
But
he did all of that? It's not like, hey, you need to do this?
No, so it was a completely done truck.
Yeah.
But it just laughed at me because we were kind of talking, type of person or whatever. But there's a lot of inconsistencies I see with trucks and sales ads, or when people talk about the type of build they did or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just laughed because that, in a sense, it's kind of impossible to do a rotisserie restoration on a truck.
Yeah.
A frame on body, or body on frame, I guess.
Yeah.
So to put that on a rotisserie, you would have to leave the body on the frame and put the bolt the frame to the rotisserie.
Yeah.
But then you couldn't do a frame off, or you could do a frame off, and so you put just the frame on the rotisserie. I don't know.
No.
Those two words don't go together, basically.
Yeah, no, not really. Unless you just do the body or the bed by itself and the cab by itself.
Which at that point is still technically just a frame off restoration.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what the rotisserie thing's about.
But
that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I've seen the same thing. People say that about these.
Yeah.
Oh, did a frame off restoration on this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, on a unibody, huh?
Yeah. That is pretty funny. Okay, yeah, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
But I don't know. One thing I was
Well,
wondering
and I can see where you're going with your question there, though, of the use of a truck. When you fully restore a truck, what is it used for now?
Just a show truck.
Honestly,
you don't want to scratch it.
A fully restored truck, I would see being less useful than like what we've done.
Yeah.
You know, my truck, especially with the Patina. The Patina to me is one thing I've seen a lot of people don't understand either. Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to understand too. I used to give you kind of a lot of crap about it.
Yeah.
That's just an excuse not to paint it.
Well, but it's also badass.
Well, and then when you really truly start to understand Patina, it is honestly awesome. And yeah, the whole idea of a truck only, it took its entire lifetime to look that way.
Yeah. And
realistically, I mean, there are ways to replicate it, but you can't replicate it perfectly. And then the whole idea as well is, a vehicle with a patina, because, this hood even, the paint wears off a certain way, and it fades differently in the sun. It depends on how many, coats were laid down originally with a spray gun, stuff like that.
How it's sitting.
Where it's sitting, the direction it's sitting, how much sunlight it sees, if there's a tree next to it, shadow in a different area. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So, one vehicle with a patina, that's the only vehicle in the world that looks like that.
Right.
So it is actually a pretty cool side to it. And then, it's funny, I've explained in person to quite a few people, because they asked me that about my truck. Are you going to paint it? Well, I don't think so. And then they kind of question why.
Yeah.
And I show them, and one of the funniest ones is the driver door. You look out the window, and, where you put your arm out the window,
yeah,
it's all the paint's worn off on the driver's side. Passenger side's got plenty of paint left on it.
Right, exactly.
But so all the paint's worn off just on the passenger side there, or on the driver's side there, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then, usually the bedside, so you can see where the truck was used for work through its whole life.
Yeah. So, what do you think about people that say, patina is just a trend, and they don't understand why people are paying way too much money for patina? I mean, it is a hot market right now.
I think it's just a trend.
Yeah.
I think it's just becoming more popular.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to understand the history behind a vehicle and what it takes for it to become what it has been.
Right.
And because I think patina's, I don't know, I think patina's been around for a lot longer.
Yeah.
And a lot of older patina vehicles used to be just rat rods.
Yeah. That's true. Just rust, basically.
Rust or just an old vehicle that you don't have enough money to paint.
Yeah.
And I think the era of vehicle is just changing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you ever think there's going to be patina 90s vehicles? Or is that going to be kind of goofy? A lot of those are fiberglass and plastic bumpers and stuff, so that's going to be a different patina than...
So I think it's I'm sure there's going to be a variance of patina to it.
Yeah.
At some point in the future. But I don't know that it's necessarily going to be the same. Yeah. Because, once you start getting into the 80s, probably pretty much anything 80s was kind of the last era of that.
Yeah.
And then anything 90s and up, that's where you started having plastic bumper. You had a lot of plastic door guards and little fender pieces and stuff like that.
Looks faded, doesn't really look good.
It just looks faded, and then the patina, it ends up just faded or broken.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can start replacing some of that, but then you get into the plastic bumpers and stuff like that that are painted body color.
Yeah. I think it's funny when people try to replicate patina, but then just do a really awful job like that.
And end up just ruining a vehicle.
Yeah, there's that C10 you sent me one time, and this guy took an angle grinder.
Literally, angle grinder like a flapper disc.
Yeah.
You can see his up and down motion.
And that was one of his selling points too. He was like, "Great patina."
Great patina.
It was a perfect truck probably before you did that.
He absolutely ruined it, but he was selling it as like a perfect patina.
Yeah, he's trying to make more money because he said it had patina.
And he literally ruined it. No.
Exactly.
But yeah. I don't know. I see them as it's moving into a new era.
Yeah.
And the patina vehicles, I think there is going to be a point where it ends.
Yeah.
But
where it ends 60s patina is not going to be cool anymore, or you just mean moving forward 90s vehicles?
Moving forward. Yeah. Patina I think is always going to be cool because it is just it's a type of vehicle.
Yeah.
Or a very good look. But it's going to be to where the patina doesn't I don't think it has the same effect or same look.
Right.
And that's, where you get into like the 90s stuff, talking the plastic. I think that the patina is going to maybe start going away.
Yeah. Nice thing about patina is like it saves you money. Still, everything's functional. I mean, as long as it's not like a rust bug. Obviously, if the floors are rotted out and all this, you have to fix all that.
Well, and I said that can kind of bring you to another side that I've seen. There's so many people that don't understand true patina. Mm-hmm. And, my truck is almost one of those. My truck's pretty rusty.
Yeah.
But whoever owned it before me did some terrible body work to it. So it's all covered up right now.
Yeah.
But I do want to do the metal work to it and blend it back in. But overall it does still have a good patina. But there's so many people that don't understand rust versus patina.
Yeah, that's definitely a big difference.
And because you can have a patina that's surface rust, or you just have a giant gaping hole.
Yeah.
And
at that point it's not worth more money.
Yeah.
People are trying to sell that patina really hard these days, and it's not,
Well, I know there's quite a few people that told me before I started doing what I did to my Daytona when it was just the Charger. Yeah. Oh, that's got a great patina, you should leave it.
Yeah.
And granted, one side I think looked absolutely awesome, but the driver's side, there was almost no paint left.
Yeah.
And it was almost entirely surface rust.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not a patina. That is becoming just rust.
Yeah. I think you saved that just a good point, because you picked up that Daytona, the 69, it was sitting for 10 years, right? Or more than that in front of this
No, it was sitting for 30-some years.
Really? Damn.
Or,
just inside,
yeah, 30-some years, yes.
Dang. And I think when we saw it first, when was the first time we saw it? It was probably...
First time I saw it is when I still lived in town.
Yeah.
And... my dad, being a truck driver, sent me pictures of it. Or not sent me pictures. He actually, took pictures of it and coming home. So I was young enough to where I didn't even have a phone yet.
Yeah.
And hey, check out these, pictures. And so he told me about those cars before I was even, when I was still playing with little Hot Wheels in elementary school, I think.
So I wonder what that car looked like on that picture. Like, I don't know if you guys still have that picture the first time you guys saw it versus when you bought it. Probably way worse.
Well, because I know even like the Google images, because that car is still on the Google images.
Oh, yeah.
I think those are even 6 or 7 year old images.
Yeah.
It still looks identical.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that paint's been gone for a long time.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But so it almost looks like the paint was probably starting to go away, probably even when they parked it.
Yeah.
But also where they parked it, it's really weird because they parked it. It was up against. Well, no, actually, I think it was further behind the house. It was partially up against a garage on the driver's side, and it had like a trailer parked on the passenger side. Kind of catty corner to it though, so it had two things catty corner on it, and so both sides were open.
Yeah.
And somehow the driver's side got just all the paint baked off, and only some on the passenger side.
That was weird.
It was very weird, but and it was basically just down to nothing.
Yeah.
And it was beyond patina at that point. It was literally just straight rust.
Yeah, it sucks. It's like what really sucks is like the people that are like, oh, I'm going to build that car. I'm going to hold on to it, and they don't want to sell it. We've run across a million cars that we want to buy and knock on the door, and people say, no, I'm going to fix it.
I'm going to fix it up someday.
Yeah, and then, this is the same thing happens. Like, that car right there would have been probably a lot nicer of a car, 10 years ago if they would have sold it to someone.
Yeah. Well, shoot, the same guy that I got the car from, I was telling you this a little earlier, he wants the engine back out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me and my dad built that engine. It's a 3D3, and it was a great engine. It ran awesome. It's good. What? And he couldn't understand why I pulled it out.
Yeah.
I told him, sitting for 30 plus years, I said, that motor was junk.
Yeah.
I says, I got it running. I says, but it was not good. I says, the transmission, and he was talking about the transmission too. He was surprised I had to put a transmission in it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, none of
it's automatic. It's
yeah,
like you can't
all the
just have those
seals were bad.
Yeah.
I says, the thing puked out all of its transmission fluid.
Yeah.
I said it had a lot of valve issues and lifter issues in the motor.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it could be pulled apart, and you're gonna have to rebuild the top end. And then at that point, the bottom end's probably old. It's probably got issues at some point as well. Yeah. But yeah, the whole thing was just he parked it in the mid '80s, and I think he got into some legal trouble. I'm not entirely sure, but basically the car just parked and stopped driving it.
Jeez.
And there it sat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just that motor it's junk. But yeah, sitting on a car for that many years, the whole thing deteriorated. And that's one thing that people, I'm going to fix it up someday. And yeah, I literally don't understand, the longer the wait, the worse it gets.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm just going to sit on it until someone offers me too much money. But it's like, well, sure, the values are going up, but your actual car is...
Value is going down, yeah. And that was one of the main reasons I was very serious about buying those cars.
Yeah.
And then I was also at the right time where I got those cars from.
Yeah.
So, but one of them was I was able to talk with Laura on the other car, because I originally bought the first one.
Yeah.
And then because I made all that happen, I was then able to buy the second one.
Yeah.
But the first one, she wanted quite a bit of money for it, and I told her, well, I said, you're not too far off, but I'd like to look at it, because she told me it was a rust-free car.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, well, I don't want to sound rude or anything, but I said, I highly doubt that.
Yeah.
So I can almost guarantee you this thing's got rust. And I think she thought at first that I was just full of it.
Yeah.
But, of course, we told her, I said, one of the main areas, I said, these rear windows tend to leak, and I said, that just goes right in the trunk. And I says, then over the years, I says, you have plants, I says, any holes or anything like that, plants grow up through it, those die, they grow up through it. I says, basically it just makes compost inside the trunks.
Yeah.
And I said, they just holds moisture and it just rusts them out.
Yeah.
And same thing, like I said, she thought I was just full of it. And so we opened up the trunk, and they had a whole bunch of lights in there. We pulled all that out, and still had the original cover over the taillights with the original vinyl floor kit over the or in the trunk, the trunk mat. There we go.
Yeah.
And so we pulled off that taillight panel, and I remember grabbing the edge of that floor mat and pulled it up, and the trunk floor came up with it, and we're staring at the fuel tank.
Oh gosh. You're like, so no rust, huh?
Oh yeah, so pretty much. But Laura there, she's and then she was almost devastated, and she almost thought her car wasn't worth anything.
Yeah.
And so then I had to tell her, and I said, no, it's still worth something. I said, but I says, this is a very common issue on these.
Yeah.
And I says, but I said, that just means we need to come up with a more realistic number. Right. And of course we ended up coming up with a number, and partially because they needed to get the cars moved per the county. They couldn't have them where they were anymore.
That's
so
right. That's kind of what
just pretty much everything
that
worked out in my favor.
Yeah.
Of, I was able to make her a good deal, but then also part of the deal was I was moving her car out of there and her brother's car, and then I took her car home because I bought it from her, and then moved her brother's car into storage. She had no way of doing that, and once I moved into storage and I had purchased her car, her brother then hey, let him know that I'm thinking about selling mine too.
Yeah.
And so it just happened that I was trying to sell my 74 at the time.
Yeah.
And so made that purchase. That was just absolutely ridiculous how that whole situation happened. So yeah, I ended up with both cars. But yeah, and from sitting for so long, people just don't understand. Those cars need everything. And of course, I'm still working on the Daytona. Yeah. This is years later.
Yep.
It took a while to get all the paperwork figured out on them. I think that took almost 8 months.
Yeah.
And that was even with them having the titles, but that's because her mother's name was on one, her father's name was on the other, her mother had passed away, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was a whole wish-wash of getting the title paperwork straightened out.
Dang.
But I got all that done. But yeah, fuel lines, brake lines, both rubber and metal, all that had to be replaced. And just from sitting for so long, especially sitting over grass like they were, it just moistured up against the bottom. And surprisingly, the bottom side there, both cars were factory undercoated. Almost completely rust-free underneath as far as frame rails and floor. But your bare metal, couple of the fuel lines, because those got undercoated as well. But there's a couple areas where they didn't undercoat them very well. Those were just rusted through. And then, of course, internal-wise, those are just garbage.
Yeah.
We couldn't blow through either one, with air. Yeah. Nothing made it through.
Jeez.
So replaced the fuel lines, replaced almost all the brake lines on them.
Yeah.
And then just even, there is rust in them. Oddly enough, I ended up selling the, one was a 318 car, one was a 383 car. First one I bought was the 318 car, and then I bought the brother's car, which was a 383. Because I made that happen, I sold the first one to my dad.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting that one. So his, trunk-wise, was almost completely gone, but the quarter panels were almost perfect. They had a little bit of rust in the bottom corners. Yeah. Mine, the trunk floor, ended up actually being almost perfect. I had a few pinholes, but then the quarter panels had quite a bit more rust in them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird how the two cars did that.
Yeah.
But,
they lived different lives beforehand.
Yeah.
They were apart. But.
And then, of course, it turned out that my dad's car, I don't know if it went off the road or if they honestly, I think, jumped it.
Really?
Yeah. So
a little cricket or
the
what,
whole right side of the car is bent.
Mm-hmm.
Front frame rail had a tweak in it. The spring mount, where the front spring shackle mounts to the floor, that was bent back. And then his frame rail to trunk height was shorter on the passenger side than the driver's side.
Really?
So it's like the whole passenger side had like a kink in it. And then when we went to put a trunk floor in it, the trunk floor didn't quite fit right.
Yeah, maybe they went into a ditch.
But so it almost looks like they either went off the side of the road or they jumped it and it landed more on the right side.
Yeah.
But pretty much, yeah, everything on the right side had just a slight tweak to it in some direction.
That's weird.
But
Weird.
yeah, so yeah, those cars, even working on them as much as we have, they're still nowhere near done or even close to it. They're just barely roadworthy now, and we've put out how much time and money into them.
Right.
But yeah, so many people don't understand that with a car. I'm gonna fix it up someday, and yeah, the longer and longer they let it sit, the worse and worse it gets, and the more and more it takes to actually get them roadworthy again.
Yeah.
But
sweet. Well,
I think we're out of beer.
yeah, I think so.
So
I guess what?
I think that's it. Curiosity-wise, with the whole patina thing we were discussing, let us know what you think in the comments. We'd like to hear your input as to what you think about the patina, along with lowered trucks. Is patina cool? Is it not? Is it just a trend? Is it lasting a long time? Same thing with the lowered trucks. Are they actually ruined? Do you think there's a better useful, or did we miss anything with a stock truck versus a lowered truck? What can the stock truck do that a lowered one can't, if we missed anything? But yeah, if you have any thoughts, just let us know in the comments.
Yeah, or any topics for the next time we
future topics for sure, because we have quite a few ideas for these sit downs.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to run out of ideas. So let us know anything that you'd be interested in hearing, and just let us know in the comments, I guess.
Yeah. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Okay. Drinks Bush.
Hey, I know freaking Brett lives by that shit. Your dad lives by Bush. I don't know why.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's like just river water. That's what it is.
Water.
Bush is...
I know. I was over at my sister's house the other day.
Yeah.
And she was out, normally I bring beer over all the time, and I rode with them back, so I forgot whatever. And,
yeah.
But yeah, there was only a bush left in there from my dad.
Yeah.
And, I guess that's what I'm drinking. It's terrible.
You just take a sip and you're like, I don't know, just pour it out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know about this.
I don't know if I'm that desperate.
I don't know. Some people love their Bush. Like, have you seen that You Betcha guy on YouTube? He does Northwestern, kind of like he's in the Wisconsin area or something. But I don't know. He's like sponsored by Bush. Yeah, and he does that thing with Bush and opens it up and stuff. And Brett, he won't drink anything else. He's like Miller Lite. That's disgusting. Coors.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, he's from kind of more of the Midwest. I mean, like northeastern Nebraska.
Yeah.
It must be a thing out there. That's weird. And your dad, I don't understand him. He's from Colorado, right?
He is, yeah.
There's a lot of good beers in Colorado. I don't know what he's doing with Bush.
Bush.
Yeah.
Well, he's never... I know growing up with him, though, he's been on different beer kind of...
Kicks?
Kicks, yeah.
What did he drink before Bush, then?
I think he drove Keystone.
Oh, God. What? He just got bad taste all
no,
around.
I'm sorry. No, it wasn't Keystone. It was Natural Light.
Natty Light, huh?
Yeah.
That's what he was going.
But I think that went away.
Stuff.
So he was forced to change.
No, they still got that. They just came out with that seltzer.
Or maybe
seltzers.
He was angry about something with them. Like they raised the prices or something. And
oh, great.
I'm done drinking them or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, what is that? It's got to be the cheapest beer around. One of the cheapest beers.
One of the cheapest, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is. That's why everyone buys that in college.
Probably.
It's like, a freaking case for $7.
Well, I know, yeah. Water. I remember when I was younger, he used to drink Miller all the time, and his Miller Genuine Draft.
Yeah, like MGD.
Yeah. That was his drink for the longest time. So I remember, the black and gold cans being fucking everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's mostly in just bottles. I haven't seen any cans of MGD.
Yeah, that was probably why he changed then, too.
Great. I'm not paying another 10 cents for that freaking glass stuff.
Well, yeah, it's funny because I know you're kind of similar. I drink way more beer than you.
No.
But yeah, I like my stuff in a bottle, usually. When I can. I think it tastes better.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's way against glasses.
Whatever.